Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is Saturday, October 12th. It's me, Chris, and of course, the Jimmy.
What's going on, Chris? It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. God, it's deja vu or something? I don't know. Has been a minute.
Yeah.
You had your trip, fun and sun, down to Florida right before.
Yeah, I got a little shortened, but it was all right. It worked out pretty well. We saw what was coming. And we thought we were going to be fortunate that we missed the initial hurricane, but we had another one come our way, so we got out of there a little early, but no big deal.
Now, you guys were in Orlando.
Right.
So it looks like Milton went right through Orlando.
Yeah, I think so. I think it dramatically reduced in size or intensity by the time it got there, fortunately for them.
What's interesting is apparently like Disney doesn't ever close for hurricanes, and they closed for this one.
So it's probably partly the aftermath of Helene that they wanted to be precautious and things like that. I'm not sure why they would never close.
Apparently
they're not extremely protected in any other way.
Well, they're not on the coast.
Yeah,
right?
I think it just doesn't tend to hit them as hard. Yeah, I almost wanted to stay just to kind of experience, because I figured we were in a pretty safe space. It wasn't looking to be that crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were able to get out of there. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't want to have to extend and have to pay a bunch of money just to stay there and wait it out. And we probably wouldn't get to do what we were planning on doing anyway.
Right,
so
yeah, it makes sense. But you had got some good leisure time down there. Got to ride some of the new rides. And
it was a good family birthday trip, so it worked out well.
Awesome. So a lot of course, we're 23 days from the election now.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's already like
people are voting, right?
Yeah, so there's like I think 7 states have already started their early voting.
They can't count it.
right. I think what it is they've mailed out the ballots, and they can be returned now.
Okay.
But like you said, in most of these states, like Georgia and Pennsylvania, by law, they can't even start counting them until after the polls close on election day. So it's like a pointless.
We're not going to know who won the election on election day is pretty much the point, because I think we talked about it a little bit before, but like we pretty much know what's going to happen. I think it's going to look like Trump takes a pretty solid lead early on, but then we know what's going to happen. We know we're going to see a giant surge, and I think no lead is going to be comfortable. Right. I think it'll look obvious to me. This is my expectation. It's not necessarily the projections that are out there, but I think Trump is going to take a massive lead overall. But it's just all going to come down to, is the shenanigans that are going to happen, is that going to be enough to take it back? And I think it could get real ugly, because it could be days where like, well hold on, we found close more in this area. Yeah.
Oh, we found 450. He's down by 380,000 votes. Oh, we just found 400,000, and look at that, 395,000 of them are for Harris.
Well, I wonder if it'll get like that, or if it'll be overwhelming enough that they actually concede, and it'll just be, it is what it is.
The other thing that I found interesting was during the last election, Pennsylvania specifically, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court stepped in and said that they weren't going to enforce basically the laws that were already on their books, as far as like all these mail-in ballots, if they weren't signed, if they weren't marked correctly and all that. And they basically said, we're not getting involved. We're not going to, so they counted all these ballots apparently based on the Secretary of State, I think, is who runs the voting for the state. But they've already come out. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has already come out and said, these are the laws. These are the laws you have to follow, and we're going to follow them. So I don't know why they couldn't have just done that last time.
Right.
I mean, they had that opportunity.
Right.
But they have already publicly come out and made it clear that these are the laws that are on the books. These are the laws that we are going to enforce. So, I mean, that potentially is a good thing that
Yeah.
they've come out ahead of time, because now how do they backtrack on that? Right. I mean, so I don't know. But again, they should have done that last time, and they chose not to get involved, basically. So I don't know. But what I think is going to be just an absolute, and look, I think that the media and social media platforms that are all supporting, the lefties supporting, which they all are. I think that they are in for a rude awakening. This is just my gut feeling. My gut feeling is they're putting out there how close this is, and I don't think it's that close. I don't think that it's even in the same ballpark.
It should not be.
And I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it is, because nothing is lining up that would tell you that it's that close. Reality, there's nothing that you see in reality that would make me believe that it's really that close. I don't know.
I see a lot of, and this is crap on the internet. I see tons and tons of people who are not super educated on the topics, not just in general.
Well, no, they got their talking points.
Yeah, and they're just so delusional, and they're just so accepting of this candidate who was not elected, and so they don't realize that it's carrying on the same problems that they have. Like they're not. You can't connect the simple dots of the economy is bad. Like if you are not acknowledging that, then you're living in a different planet.
Or you're getting paid
if you do acknowledge it and you don't realize what led to that, then I can't. Nobody can help you.
Right.
And to get to your point, like to me, there are a lot of those people out there, but I think that they are just the loud minority rather than the actual majority of people that are like, this is bad, and I may not like Trump. I get enough of his exaggerations or whatever, his annoying, talking points. But man, I wish I could go back to
my 401k was feeling a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think here's going to be a killer for them, and I don't know if this is going to happen. Did you watch the video that was released of the New York? So in New York, it's weird. The state Supreme Court is not the highest court in the state.
Well, the appellate court, it should be, right?
Well, the state appellate court is above the Supreme Court.
Right.
Most states, it's not that way.
Oh,
most states, most states don't really have their own appellate courts.
Okay.
But New York does. So the appellate court is above the state Supreme Court. So the Letitia James case, the 34 felonies that they love to tout all the time, and the $500 million fine that and this was Judge Angron, obviously the, most ridiculous judge you could possibly ever see in America, with the most ridiculous prosecutor you could ever see in America, in cahoots to make this happen. Yeah. By the end of the appellate review, where Letitia James's office is up there, so at the end of it, they get like an hour to like summarize their case and present in the best possible way they can after they've already gone through and the judges have asked questions and all that. It was so bad for them. So bad. And the questions that the judges asked them are so bad and so damning to their case. This case is going to get thrown out. There's 100%.
This is the 34 felony case?
Yeah. It's going to get tossed. The appellate court is, and not only is it
will no longer be a felony.
Correct. And not only is it going to get thrown out, they spent their last hour, instead of spending their last hour summarizing and showing all this stuff they have for their case, They spent that whole hour begging the judges not to sanction and disbar them.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, honestly,
Wow.
like their major concern right now is not whether this case is thrown out or not. It's whether or not they're still able to practice law.
Well, I mean, that would restore some faith in the American justice system because, and that's the good that they have those balances because it was getting very scary for this to allow this to happen when these prosecutors stated their goals well in advance of what they were going
while they were running for office
and how they were going to abuse the system to do this, and that's exactly what the whole thing was. So that's fantastic to hear, but it's also not surprising that that's not being covered.
Well, and the funny thing is this is not a federal court. This is a New York state court. So you have an actual state court that's looking at this and saying, we don't understand how. I mean, one of the judges actually said, I don't understand how you even brought this as a case.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
exactly.
I mean, his question was, he gave him time, right? He's like, okay, here's my question. I want you to find me where this law was used in this way against this type of person. Oh, you can't find any? Okay. So my next question is, find me a case where this was used where there was no harm to the public.
No victim.
Oh, you can't find one? Okay. Okay, find me a case where this amount of money was ever fined to a person under this statute, and it was, oh, there's nothing? So basically what you're saying is you guys bastardized this law to fit. And the female judge that was on there, and I was kind of shocked when she said it. She said, I can only come to two conclusions. Either one, you guys really just don't understand the law, or two, you were involved in election interference.
Hence the begging for their.
So basically, which one is it? Because I mean, and she laid it out just like that. She said, which one is it? And so they spent, like I said, their last hour, and normally that's where you put your best points forward. That's where these are the slam dunk parts of the case that we have. No, they didn't. They said please don't sanction us.
That's insane.
Please don't.
Yeah, but I really wish that would be covered. That would change the game.
Well, if you want to watch it, they're in clips. So I think they're about 15, 20-minute clips a piece. And I'm not sure that the entirety of it has been put out yet, but there's a bunch of it out.
But somebody should be covering it as a story and explaining basically what you just did in a story and say, why that is highlight what the judges said, why is a sham case, and why it's not going to go anywhere, and why these people should be disbarred and sanctioned for what. Yeah,
sanctioned. I don't think there's any question that there's going to be sanctions at a minimum. Now it's pretty hard. I mean, judges don't get to disbar people. That has to go back in front of the state bar, and then the state bar has a hearing, and they decide whether or not that's so. But it's honestly to the level where, I mean, these judges are like, how are any of you even practicing law? So my point of that whole thing is generally speaking, it takes a long time for appellate courts and the Supreme Court to come out with decisions. I'm not so sure that this won't come out a week before the election, where they come out and just drop this whole thing, and that's just gonna be absolutely fucking devastating to the Harris campaign. Because what are you gonna say then? Because the retort automatically is, oh, he convicted of 34 felonies. He's like, yeah, that you concocted, and the appellate court said you're full of shit.
And that'll be wild. And I think Trump has called it. He's kind of called this stuff well in advance, and people dismiss it wildly. I don't want to change gears, but I have another example of that, and I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are about since we haven't kind of really talked in a while. But like when he brought up during the debates that the migrants in Ohio, the Haitian migrants in Ohio, are eating
Dogs and cats.
eating pets. I've seen so many places, and actually generally sane conversations, but people still dismissing that like that's insane and untrue. Even if it's not true completely, I think there is evidence to say that it is true.
Well, what I find interesting about it is you know, when the claim was made, the mayor of that, what is it, Springfield, something like Springfield, Ohio. The mayor of that town came out and said,
it's like the city manager.
I think you're right. I think it was the city manager. Came out and said, we have no evidence that that's happening. Yeah. He didn't come out and say it's not happening.
Well, Trump called the fact checker, the moderator, the fact checker, called him out for making that claim, saying obviously he would have a reason to say that. He's a city manager. Why would, of course, he'd want to.
Yeah, they don't want people not to come to their.
Or to have that opinion about their city. But
I find it interesting. You know, my point is like as a city manager, I mean, one, before I said anything, I would certainly be doing my due diligence to make sure that it wasn't happening. He came out immediately and said, we have no evidence that that's well. Okay, you came out like less than like 3 hours after it was said. And said that you have no evidence of what's happening, and you caveated it with we have no evidence instead of just saying that's not happening.
Yeah,
you know. So I mean it's clear that you know they were just trying to do damage control for their city as opposed to actually finding out.
I think that there is some evidence that it's happening. There's some claims of it going on. So and it didn't just get brought up out of nowhere. It wasn't somebody.
Right. JD Vance didn't just magically make it up.
No. So I think there is some at least claims to it. Yeah. Whether or not that they're completely factual or not is maybe under question. However, so for all the people that are just dismissing it, that's what bothers me. They're dismissing it like it's so ridiculous it's not happening.
Well, and the thing is like in that same debate, you know, they're latching onto this. Oh, you know, they're saying that. You know, JD Vance said that they're eating the dogs and the cats, you know, in Springfield, Ohio.
Well, Trump said it.
Or Trump said it, but JD Vance, during their debate, also, he didn't really talk about it, but I think one of the moderators said something about it, said something about the comment being made, and he said, look, they're calling my office, you know, talking about it. You know, I'm getting the phone calls about this happening because he's an Ohio senator. Yeah, right. He's like, they're coming to my office and saying it. But what I find interesting is in that same debate, Walt said that his son witnessed a shooting. Mm-hmm. Now it's come out that the director of the what are those things called? Like the community center or whatever it was. The director has come out and said, no, me and his son were in the building. We heard a gunshot that was outside. We never saw the gunshot. We never saw who shot the gun. There was apparently a fight between two people off the property, but close. We heard the gunshot. But they absolutely refuse to talk about him lying about that. His son witnessing a shooting, which he didn't do. His son did not witness it. So you're just, you know, glasses on. You're just believing that and refusing to acknowledge that he lied. But you're questioning, you know, something that's much, to me is, you know, not that it's a great thing, but it's a much more minor thing, you know, if people are eating cats and dogs, as opposed to a child being exposed to homicide or potentially in the way of being shot indiscriminately by, you know, gunfire. Mm-hmm. You're willing to accept that at face value, but you're questioning this. And oh, by the way, we already know he lied because the director came out and said, no, I was with his son. We were in the building. So, yeah, I mean, it just tells you right there
exactly.
that they're...
Well, Mr. Waltz has been caught in so many lies at this point, and I didn't realize how specific some of his claims were, and how many times he attempted to make these claims. It wasn't a single slip, like I'm friends with school shooters.
Yeah, what the hell?
But and which he didn't even try to resolve what he said or meant. But these are ridiculous. But yeah, I think I just like I said, I'm getting super annoyed by people that are completely dismissive of this. It's like there's been so many issues and claims that Trump has made that people dismiss, and they're true. He calls it, and he's very accurate, a lot more than people think that, and it gets dismissed across like media.
Well, they take the one piece of exaggeration out of a bigger context.
Mm-hmm.
So the context of, a lot of what he says is, like I'll just use the animal thing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of immigrants there. They're doing things that are inappropriate. They're sucking on the resources of the community. They're all that. They're eating the dogs and cats. They focus on the dog and cats and ignore the reality of the entirety of the comment.
Well, and there's countless reports. And so I was going to bring this up at some point, but there was a recent conversation between Anna Kasparian
mm-hmm.
and Jillian Michaels,
mm-hmm.
two very, very left-wing women. But they had a very sane and refreshing conversation. I imagine that many women who tend to share those kind of similar values would find relatable and refreshing. But they were discussing the cat and the dog thing and dismissing it like as it was absurd. But they did make a good point, like, why go to that when you can actually talk about them murdering American citizens?
Yeah.
Like, why make an outrageous claim like they're eating cats and dogs, which you're saying it's outrageous when there's some evidence that's true, at least some reasonable claims.
Mm-hmm.
But you do make a good point that they are. Yeah. There's plenty of events and incidents of illegal immigrants murdering American citizens.
Well, and it doesn't even have to rise to the level of murder. It's the crime in general.
Yeah,
within those populations.
Right.
I mean, it rises to the level of murder a lot of times, but let's not forget the amount of rapes of minors, sexual assaults of minors, theft, all those things. They're doing. I mean, New York, and I don't know how much you've been paying attention because I know you've been on vacation, but New York City is about to collapse. In 3 years, New York City has spent $5.7 billion on the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, because of their sanctuary city status. Well, $5.7 billion. Now, I mean, you reap what you sow, right? I mean, I don't necessarily feel bad for them.
Right.
But what's it turned into? 17 people within the New York State administration have basically resigned, because guess what? 4 or 5 of them have already been arrested. There's a whole bunch more that are about to be arrested, all for not conspiracy, but corruption charges. Mm-hmm. The mayor's next. He's refusing to step down, but he's
at least acknowledged that it's unsustainable and it was probably a mistake.
Yeah.
You can.
But notice, these are all liberal Democrats, right? In a very liberal Democrat city. Once he said that, once he started speaking out against the illegal migrants being in his city, this investigation was launched. And now his entire cabinet has been they've either resigned or about to resign, and most of them are going to be arrested. There's already been 4 of them in the last week that have been arrested and indicted. He's been indicted. He just hasn't been arrested. Amazing how that works when you start going against the Democrat, the Democrat machine.
That's probably a larger scale, but I was going to say this is the problem with that stuff is because there's so much cover up amongst the leftist media, any of the leftist supporters of this immigration. They do their best to cover up and dismiss any of these actual events or schools being taken over by illegal immigrants because it hurts their narrative.
Yeah. Well, this is really going to hurt their narrative. I mean, I think they said 101 hotels. So think about this. Think about what a tourist attraction New York City is annually, right?
Mm-hmm.
101 hotels are at max capacity because they're all filled with illegal immigrants.
But who's paying for that? We know who's paying for that.
The city. Well, the taxpayers. Yeah, that's part of the 5.7 billion. But think about this: why are they so afraid to stop it? Well, what does it do for those people who own those hotels? They love it. You know why? Because how often is a hotel at max capacity? Never.
They probably love the income from it, but there's no way that that's going well. There's got to be all kinds of issues and crime and
the people who own the properties don't care because they've all become instant millionaires. Every single one of them has been, which is why they are more than happy to be at 100% capacity every single day, 365 days a year for 3 years. They have all
that's actually happening.
Yes.
I don't think I've really thought that much about that.
And that's not counting the debit card. So remember, they were giving them food and they were giving them all this other stuff, and they complained about the food.
Well, what's the expense to that? Because it's different if you're putting them in apartment complexes and you're giving them enough for rent for a month.
Yep.
So obviously the hotel bill is going to be a lot more than that.
Yep.
They're not just paying for just their room.
Right.
They're paying for all the services that are going on.
They have laundry services.
That's
they have
insane.
Everything just like you were living in a hotel.
Why? I don't understand why you would even accept and allow this. Like, what are they being offered? So, and maybe this is where the indictments are coming in, but like, are you getting kickbacks for allowing this and supporting it?
Partially, but I think most of the kickbacks are from other. Look, if you're doing one thing illegal and getting away with it, most likely some of these morons are doing a lot of.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that what this housing of illegal immigrants is not illegal. It's sanctioned in some
correct.
As long as it's sanctioned, then they can do what they want.
Right.
They can pay for it. They're using taxpayer money.
But that's not what they're nailing them on the thing for. They're nailing them for other things, saying that they're corrupt. But would these other things ever been brought up had he not started speaking out about the illegal immigrant population in being brought into New York City? And I don't know. My guess is probably not, because guess what? Chicago, they're towing the line and they're taking them and they're doing whatever, and the mayor there doesn't care, and he goes on national TV and tells people they're stupid for crying about it and all that. And this mayor is the only mayor who spoke out about it in his city, and he's now been indicted, and his entire staff has been indicted. So you tell me.
Yeah. Play the game.
Yeah,
but
he didn't play the game.
I'm really interested to see where this goes then. So let's say Trump gets in office, and he's got a lot of people in his cohort that are very interested in shaking up the establishment.
Yeah.
Right? Vivek Ramaswamy, he has a big advocate for slashing the government bloat, like completely. So, and I don't think I don't know what kind of part he may get to be in this, but Elon Musk, an government efficiency committee or whatever they said that is. He does not mind saying, "Oh, you don't want to come into work? Okay,
go home."
Yeah, go home. And then RFK Jr. overhauling the health administration, the health system across America, like really shaking things up. I think that is something that's probably not touted as much by the
left. The left talks about it because they're using it as fear mongering, oh my God, if he gets elected and,
Well, all these people-
you're going to lose your job because Elon Musk is, or your healthcare is going to change because RFK wants this. So they're using it when they talk about it. You're right. They don't talk about it a lot, but when they do, it's used in the other vein of fear mongering that, oh my God, you're going to lose all your service. Like this whole thing about, they want to, first of all, anybody who believes that a president has the power and capability to slash Social Security doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. You don't know how government runs. There's only one body that has anything to do with Social Security, and that's the Congress. Congress has the purse strings. They're the ones who control it. Can they pass a law?
Also, besides the point, nobody wants to slash Social
Right. Well, I know, but that's always the claim, right?
Yeah.
So, in abortion, they always say, well, if President Trump gets in there, there's going to be, again, presidents don't make laws. Congress does. The president might sign them into law, but he does not write the laws. And it has to make it to him through two other bodies before it even gets them. So it's a ridiculous argument, but you morons, and I'm going to say that because at this point you're just fucking morons. If you don't understand that this is how this works, you're just fucking stupid. And I really don't know what else to say to you. But there, and then of course you have the judiciary, which is the check on the other two bodies of, what is constitutional and what is not. So there's a whole process, and just believing that a president has the ability to just out of thin air create these.
They have certain powers with their executive orders,
right?
We saw a lot of that with immigration, probably for both the last two administrations. But as far as overhauling something that is pretty set and important to people, it's unlikely to see a big change.
Right.
But, and that's a fair point because, things are a little bit more challenging. And this is why, for the majority of our lifetime, probably people that are older than us too, have seen whenever a new administration comes in, it's more of the same.
Right. Not much changes.
Not much changes ultimately. However, we're the more recent history, we have seen a lot of stuff. We've seen a dramatic difference in the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that there are opportunities there to overhaul the system. All these people that have been hoping for major change whenever they, are going to the ballot box in November, this is your opportunity, I think, to see some real legitimate change and see some great progress.
Yeah.
If you don't buy into the fear mongering from the left,
right,
about all the rights and stuff you're going to lose,
right,
which is
absolutely
nothing that the right is even pushing for.
And even if they were, again, I go back to the same thing. Even if they were pushing for it, like how long has the left been pushing for an abolishment of the Second Amendment?
Yeah.
Decades.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, they probably still are.
You know why it doesn't happen? Because a president doesn't have that authority. A president doesn't have that power. That would take a constitutional amendment. If you don't know what it takes to get a constitutional amendment, I highly encourage you to look up there's a reason that the founders made that process so slow, cumbersome, and difficult. Because the left wants a meritocracy? Is that what it's? Where majority rules, a meritocracy, right?
No, not a meritocracy. That's just a democracy.
Right, which would be a meritocracy, which would mean like
not meritocracy.
Whoever gets the most votes wins.
That's just a democracy. That's just a democracy, right?
I guess. I don't know. I thought it was a meritocracy.
No, meritocracy is it has to have merit. You have to earn, the
maybe, yeah, okay,
earn the argument basically, or the privilege, whatever is up for. It has to be based on merit. But democracy. Is just that, but that's not. We are
not one,
democracy.
Right? And you've been led to, and that's why you hear the after.
We don't want mob rule.
No,
that's what
it is.
That is. That's what our system is built in to avoid.
And that's why they made it as cumbersome and as painful, kind of, to do a constitutional amendment as they did. They could foresee down the road a party or a government or a group of people wanting, majority rule, the popular vote to win elections, and then you're stuck. If that were to ever happen, it would never change. That party would win. We would be Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. Everybody we've talked about Bill Maher a little bit, but Bill Maher, seems to, he's been calling out the left a lot.
Yeah.
And acknowledging some truths, but he still can't get rid of that Trump derangement syndrome. He still is stuck on, and so many people are, that Trump didn't acknowledge the results of the 2016 or the 2020 election. He didn't acknowledge those. So he is a threat to democracy. He orchestrated January 6th and is a threat because he wanted to completely overthrow the system, which is not true.
Right.
That's an extreme exaggeration of what happened and what took place, and that he did not conduct a peaceful transition of power. What are you talking about? Did you see him holding down, just like you were claiming he was going to do, that he's not leaving?
Yeah, he wasn't going to leave the Oval Office. Right. He's going to strap himself in there.
Happen. To me, that's fear mongering. So
by the way, we're not the party that's trying to assassinate our opponent.
Every time, I don't know why that argument isn't used. Anytime somebody's still to this day, they're bringing up January 6th and say Trump sat by for hours. Wait a minute, you mean like Biden sat by for hours after Trump was shot?
Yeah,
and was legitimately shot in the head.
Yeah,
by an assassin.
Yeah,
and you sat by for a couple hours and didn't do anything.
Yeah. And they still haven't come out. I mean, the reports are out. Everybody knows that Iran has put a bounty out on Donald Trump's head. They actually had people here. I think they've been arrested. Had people here that were supposed to be basically the hit team to do it, and I don't hear him saying shit about that.
Yeah, there's a difference between, there's a lot of people, I think, on the left that still advocate for that, still are saying, I wish he didn't miss and this and that.
Oh, yeah.
But like Joe Biden obviously condemned it eventually, as he should, because otherwise what's going to happen to you. Like if you push, it's going to come back on you if you continue to push. But that wasn't my point. My point is Trump clearly condemned January 6th and did not advocate for anybody to attempt to overthrow the government.
Right.
He wanted people their voices to be heard. He has a legitimate claims about concerns over the election and wanted people to raise that as an issue.
Right.
That's it. So for Bill Maher and everybody else to have to consider that Trump is this major threat to democracy is insane, especially as you try to advocate for a candidate who just completely sidestepped the democratic process of elections and throwing themselves in the candidacy for presidency. And I guarantee you that if Trump wins, and we will never see Kamala Harris again.
No, she
will never attempt to run for presidency or whatever. And if she does, she will go back to having zero support like she did when she actually attempted to run. What was it, in 2016?
Yep.
Or, well, no.
2020.
Yeah, 2020. Sorry. 2020, when she got completely dismissed way early on and then just got...
She was the first one out. She was the first one of all the candidates out because she had like less than 1% of the vote. And if she has to run against anyone else within her party, she's going to get destroyed. So, 100%.
I'm also curious what people would say, because this is something that I feel like I do say that the left is doing everything wrong during this campaign. They've screwed this up from the beginning to now, and they should have zero chance. But the right is missing opportunities left and right, in my opinion.
Agreed.
In both the debates, I think even I don't think we talked about the VP debate, but JD Vance, for as well as he did, he still missed several opportunities, I think, to hit on some points. And so I forget what I was just going to say now about what another opportunity that we missed. What were we talking about?
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, missed opportunity. There's so many that I'm thinking of. Maybe this is why they forget, because there's so many issues to address. But yeah, now I lost it. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that he certainly could have hit. I mean, don't get me wrong. He took every top opportunity, Vance, during the debate to say, well, wait a minute. Harris has been there for three and a half years. I mean, he did say that a lot. He didn't specifically point out individual things, but he made it very clear that, you have a candidate who's running. This isn't a new candidate. This is somebody that has been, she made the claim that she was always the last in the room when a decision was made. Mm-hmm. So you can't very well separate yourself from everything that's going on. Yeah. And then still claim
and some of them are calling, even the left is calling them out on that stuff and saying like, how much, what would you change?
Yeah.
But even Biden is saying how integral she was during all their decisions. So
do you find that weird that Biden is like throwing her under the bus?
Does he know he's doing it? Or I think he's just still the same lost, crazy individual putting on a Trump hat. Yeah. That's so great. But yeah, I do remember what I was going to say. I was going to say that the left often calling out the right for being this divisive party and everything. We have people across the spectrum, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, coming over. Elon Musk, who was always a left-wing dude, never, at least acknowledges that he never voted Republican in his life, is now all on board.
He calls himself Dark
MAGA. Like, I love it. He is so autistic, but he's a genius. I love the dude. But he may not be right about everything, but he is super thoughtful, super well thought out. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what he can do. But I'm feeling a little autistic now, jumping around. But no, I think this is an opportunity that we're not highlighting enough. The unifying aspects of the right movement is much more centered now than anything else, while the left just gets so
But it goes back to everything we always say. We say this all the time. Everything that the left accuses everyone else of doing, they are the ones doing it. Yeah. The right is so divisive. You're the only motherfuckers that are being divisive.
Yeah. The only thing you talk about is gender, sex.
You're the one that's dividing people into groups based on their race or their ethnicity or their gender or their whatever. You're the only ones doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like that across the board. Trump is corrupt and y'all are the ones getting arrested for corruption charges.
Yeah, as long as they're not made up by some crazy.
I mean, so it's going to be interesting. The next 3 weeks, I think next week is going to be like. I just feel like next week is going to be like super quiet. They've already found out that Harris. They cannot let her go. I mean, we're 3 weeks to the election, and they have just not even considered sending her out to do a town hall, sending Waltz out to do a town hall. They're not going to do that stuff. It's too close now. They're not going to do it because they figured out what we already knew. She can't do it.
They know their
best
opportunity is to shut up, live in the basement like Joe Biden did,
and hope to God it works.
Right. They hope everybody's just going to be blue no matter who, and that's it. Yeah. And that is their best chance. It really is. Because they want Trump to put his foot in his mouth before the election, because all it takes is everybody's short memories for one thing. I do laugh at some of the people, even people I hear on right-wing programs or, traditionally, well, I guess people that consider themselves center and independent and undecided. They flip flop based on like one issue. They'd be
Right.
like, "Oh, Trump said this. I don't know how he could say that about the death penalty or migrants or
Mhm.
something. Just like whatever. He just says one thing,
Yeah.
and you wait a minute. So you're going to flip based on that? Like, do you not realize the whole like? I consider myself pretty center and independent. I just have, but there's nothing. I don't think there's anything that the left pushes
That's
that I'm in favor of.
Yeah.
I really just don't. Like, I would rather eliminate that so I can actually argue with the right a little bit and actually push back and like get away from this establishment stuff. And really though, that's the movement from this conservative party, the Republican Party that we're seeing mainstream. They're not super supportive of the establishment that we've seen from Republicans in past elections. They're not the big warmongers, the big, corporate controlled crony capitalist type people. They are generally pushing back, and they want nothing but the health of this country to come back. So that's what I want to see, and that's where I am.
Yeah,
that's
and
why I
they
feel like so.
And I think there's a lot of people like that. Even moderate Democrats, I feel like they're going to do one of two things. They're either not going to vote or they're going to vote for Trump. It's the same thing that was in 2016. They're not going to come out and say it because they're surrounded by a community of, progressive fucking
you got me.
nutbags.
So you got me thinking about like New York and California and stuff like that. There's a lot of people, which is probably why we even lose the popular vote in the first place, is because so many people in these major Democratic areas will not go out and vote because they're like, they may be very politically active and be very supportive of the right, but they're like, I live in New York City. There's no chance that my vote matters at all. So
and the only reason that I feel that way is because I look back at the 2020 election and where are the places that the Republicans, who nobody thought, they talked about the red wave that never happened. Yeah. But the only place that it did happen was in New York, where I think they picked up 3 congressional seats in New York, in the city, which is unheard of. Zeal, I think that was his last name, who was running for governor against Hochul, almost beat her, which was like unheard of. And so you started seeing it then, and there has been nothing, in my opinion, there's been nothing over the last 4 years that the left has provided to convince them to change their mind in this election. Yep. What has been done? I mean, other than your city being completely swamped with illegal immigrants and you spending $5.7 billion in 3 years to support them. I didn't even get on the other parts of the 5.7 billion, but you got your hotel costs, and then when they complained about the food, they started giving them all debit cards to get monthly stipends put on them so that they can go buy food. I'm sure that's what they're using it for. So you're paying for that. They've given you no reason to go back to believing that that's the party that's here to help you from the last election. I would think, if I was a lefty, I would think that, oh shit, we lost 3 almost 100% solidly blue districts in our city. We need to do some things to kind of get those people back. And they haven't done it. That I'm aware of, they haven't done it. And I have seen or heard nobody say that they've done anything to help. So I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't think it's going to be close. I think Trump gets at least 292 electoral college votes.
I don't think it should be close, and I don't think it will be close. Yeah. But I think that we are going to see some late night shenanigans.
Maricopa County in Georgia they already came out and said they weren't changing their process. They've been the one fucking place for the last 2 elections that have taken
Arizona.
Or yeah, maybe it's Arizona.
I think Maricopa's in Arizona.
I think wherever they are. They've already come out and said they're not changing their fucking system. So they're going to be 4 days after the election before we get anything from them.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, but they're the only ones. I mean, I think, like I said, if the Pennsylvania Supreme Court sticks to their guns this time. That one will be resolved soon.
They screwed up not picking Josh Shapiro in that case. Like,
Yeah.
they had their chance
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And they went with Tim Walz.
Yeah. Who is not turning out to be a good candidate.
No, nobody likes him.
Except for the people that just totally don't pay attention to anything.
Well, and it'll be interesting. What'll be interesting will be after the election,
Mm-hmm.
when Trump wins and the election is over, how many of these media pundits are going to immediately come out and go, well, we knew that, she wasn't going to win, and we knew, because it's going to happen. They did the same thing with Hillary.
Well, they did the same thing with Biden dropping out. They acted like, oh, no, he's good.
Yeah. Like, we knew it all along, we just,
It was time for him, and he knew. He decided to step down. He like a responsible.
Yeah.
It's good.
Right.
Didn't Kamala came out and was like, his decision that he made is going to be going to go down as like a selfless act and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It was not his decision.
Right.
If you even try to claim that, you're insane. The fact that the guy was adamant, like screaming at the top of his lungs,
24 hours before he dropped
that he
out.
was going to be the candidate. It was not his decision whatsoever. But in the area of way too early predictions, because we're talking about Trump already winning, this is what I had concerns about when J.D. Vance was picked.
Mm-hmm.
Because that immediately puts him in line for the 2028 election when Trump wins. Because we're saying Trump's going to win.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance is going to be the guy. Are you happy with that? Are you content with that? And do you agree with that?
The thing is I think he should go through a fucking primary. I mean, if he's going to run, if he chooses to run, I think we still do the process. I think any other Republican who wants to run against him, we're not going to do this willy-nilly. Oh, we're going to fucking anoint you as the guy. And if he can get up there and stand on the stage with these other people who might have better ideas than him, the winner is the winner. If it's him, it's him. I'm okay with that. But just anointing him and saying, okay, you are the VP, you get the bid. No, 100% no. He hasn't done anything.
I think that's what's going to happen.
You think they're going to anoint him?
I do. I think that however it's done, I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I don't know what's typical. If there is somebody to challenge,
well, I mean, it's not any different than
case,
when a president is an incumbent and people run against him.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So
I mean, we have a process, and if
is that what the DNC basically did in this case? Is they
thwarted it.
They thwarted
Absolutely.
any potential challenge.
Well, they threw RFK out of their party,
right?
And then they said there were going to be no primaries.
Yeah.
So they just didn't give anybody else an opportunity to even.
No, I agree with you. I think that process should be done, and I'm happy to be open to it.
Yeah.
And if he wins, he wins. But I don't know if Ron DeSantis is going to show his face again. I think he will. I think he will, but I think he's going to run into the same problems he had. He just did not do what he needed to do to win the support of people. He came off really awkward and weird. And he's good in his role, and I'd say just stay there.
He's a good governor.
Keep crushing Florida. Be my guest, dude. But I think Vivek is going to be another good challenger. I don't know what he's going to do, but I think he is going to be in the Trump administration in some capacity. A lot of people want him to take, I guess, is it JD's job as senator?
In Ohio?
Yeah, in Ohio.
Oh.
I think they advocate for that. I don't want to see that.
Well, that would be interesting. And I'm going to have to look up Ohio, the rules in Ohio. The governor of Ohio, or generally the governor in whatever state, gets to fill the seat of somebody who either leaves early because they just want out or whatever. So it would be interesting to see who is it? DeWine, I think he's a Republican. The governor there. Be interesting to see what route he would take, because I don't think he's a big Trump fan. So
and then that'll kind of see how things go for 2026 elections. How are the first 2 years of a Trump administration? Again, these are way too early predictions, considering we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But if this happens, because if it doesn't happen though, if Trump doesn't win, I'm very, very legitimately nervous about where we go.
I did see
How
a
much
really
worse?
funny thing yesterday, though. There's you talk about great marketing. There was a realtor, and she put her picture on a poster, and it said over it, "Leaving the country if Trump wins the election. Call me, and we can get your property sold."
I love it.
Yeah, no, great marketing. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
I think she was out of Texas.
I love it. Yeah.
But well, another thing, and we'll talk about this on another, maybe on our next show, is the impact that I feel like Harris is having on down ballot races, because
That's
the Democrats are going to lose the Senate.
I think they're going to lose everything.
They're going to lose the Senate. Whether they make any gains in the House or win the House, I don't know. I haven't looked that much into the House, but the House is close. The House is only like
Do you think Kamala has the impact?
100%.
My thing is it's Bidenomics that's having an impact.
Well, she's part of that.
Yeah. It's not, but it's not just her. Which is again, why are people voting for her? Because it's the same thing. People have any problem with the state of the economy.
Yep.
You should be done with her.
Yep.
Done with her. Done with
all the ones who pushed Biden. What do they call the infrastructure bill that wasn't the Build Back Better, which didn't build shit and isn't any better.
Yeah, the infrastructure bill spent hundreds of billions of dollars on
climate change.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, we'll get into that, but I think it's very interesting because I think that the Senate. I think they've lost the Senate for sure, just because of Sinema and Manchin basically not running again.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll talk about that. And you gonna be here Tuesday, or do you got hockey?
Nope, I'm open on Tuesday.
All right, Tuesday it is. Promise. Promise. But hey, it was good talking to you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Weather here has gone back up crazy, man. It was like 39 2 days ago, and today it's in the 80s. Or high 70s anyway.
It'll take a while to last.
I guess. It's not helping our hunting season much.
Yeah.
But that's about to kick into full gear too. So we'll talk to you all later.